Hello. Vibrant Pittsburgh's fifth Vibrant Index report comes out soon. Sabrina Saunders-Mosby is here to share how local employers measure up when it comes to diversity, equity, and inclusion. And it's been 2 years since 988 was introduced as a way to call for mental health help. Representatives from NAMI are here to tell us how they're working to build awareness. Plus, Pittsburgh has one more Juneteenth celebration in the works. Fantasy Zellers is here to tell us what we'll see for the city-sponsored event. So pull up a chair and meet us at the corner. Intersection starts right now. Hello, I'm Lisa Smith, the Director of Community Impact at KDKA+, and the host of Intersections. Over the last 5 years, Vibrant Pittsburgh has offered local companies a way to gauge their diversity, equity, and inclusion efforts in the workplace. Based on their Vibrant Index, the results show companies how they're doing, and those doing exceptionally well are named Vibrant Champions. Sabrina Saunders-Mosby is President and CEO of Vibrant Pittsburgh, and she joins us now on Intersections. Welcome back, Sabrina.
Thank you, Lisa. I'm so glad to be here.
Yeah. So tell us a little bit about Vibrant Pittsburgh, what it does and what this index does.
Absolutely. So Vibrant Pittsburgh is our region's central space for all things workplace inclusion. We work with our region's businesses to build more inclusive workplaces and spaces for all. Yeah. Our index, which you mentioned, is in its 5th year. This is Vibrant Index 5.0, is our annual assessment of how our companies are doing as it relates to diversity, equity, and inclusion.
Yeah. So, you have this event coming up. It's the 5th time. What's new this year?
There's so many new things. Well, first and foremost, this is the first time that we are hosting this event in person.
Wow.
And so, as many people will remember, we launched the index during the pandemic. And so we've had live webinars and virtual experiences for everyone, and we're inviting the public to come in person on the 25th to see what we have discovered in the data.
Yeah. So you talk about the data and the process, if I'm understanding it, there's like 9 categories that you look at. Talk a little bit about those points that you're looking at and what they tell you about how a company is doing when it comes to DEI.
Absolutely. So there are 9 categories that we use to measure. It is based on practice and policy, right? So this is either you are doing something and you have something in place or you do not. It's very cut and dry. And we know based on industry standards and obviously on national diversity, equity, and inclusion data analysis that these are the areas that make the most difference in the workforce. And so things like training and development, written commitment, which we know is really big this year. We're going to see, for instance, in the data that we share, that there is a direct correlation between how leaders of a company are communicating in writing that they are committed to diversity, equity, and inclusion, and how they scored on the assessment this year. It's a huge change in things that we've seen in the past.
Yeah, you talk about leadership and the retention and things like that. Why are those elements really important to the success of a company?
Absolutely. So we've seen, especially over the last couple of years, we've seen a lot of statements about the importance of diversity, equity, and inclusion, investments or big ticket item budget announcements made about investing in diversity, equity, and inclusion. But what we see is that even the greatest intentions don't have a great impact. It's action. And so as a leader is showing and proving through changing policy, improving practices that focus on inclusion and hearing from the workforce and following suit, we're seeing significant changes in retention and just the attractiveness of particular workspaces.
Yeah. So what happens after a company sees their score?
So after a company sees their score, they have an opportunity to, one, receive recommendations, right? So we have curated recommendations for each company that participates in the free and confidential assessment. Those recommendations can be discussed during a one-on-one consultation with Vibrant Pittsburgh. And as members of Vibrant Pittsburgh, we work to develop goals and provide resources to help companies move closer to those goals as it relates to what they found in the assessment itself.
Yeah. Do you find that sometimes companies are surprised by the score? Like they think maybe they've done better than they actually are doing?
Absolutely. And it's a journey, right? And we're not here to judge. This is about understanding where they are and working to build a plan to, of course, move towards more sustainable and achievable goals for a company, ultimately for its employees. And we know that those folks live and work they work in our communities, and they're in our communities. And so we want people to have better well-being and to have places that they want to go to work to.
Yeah, and then you have your champions. Do those names expand over time? Are you seeing more champions now than we've seen in the past?
We are. So we're going to announce our largest number of Vibrant champions this year. We also will be sharing information based on the largest workforce representation this year as well, meaning that companies that actually have a larger workforce are participating more and more in the index. And so we're really excited about what that shows. And in person, we will have Gus Fulcher from PNC, the chief economist. We'll have Majestic Lane from the Allegheny Conference on Community Development, which is our partner in the Vibrant Index work, the conferences, as well as Rob Cherry from Partner for Work to provide expert responses to the data. They're going to respond in real time.
Yeah, so we want to go ahead and show our viewers our graphic that we have that kind of talks about the report. It's going to be coming out on Tuesday, which is June 25th, and I believe it begins at 11:30 in the morning, correct?
It does. It begins at 11:30. And it's in the Union Trust, and individuals can still register to attend. It's free to attend. It's open to the public at vibrantpittsburgh.org. We'd love to see everyone there.
All right, sounds good. Well, thank you so much for being with us today. We really appreciate it, and congratulations on all this hard work you're doing.
Thank you, Lisa.
All right. Well, coming up, it's almost 2 years after the rollout of the 988 Suicide and Crisis Lifeline. The calls are surging. We'll discuss how communities are meeting the need. You're watching Intersections. Well, July will mark 2 years since the launch of 988. The Suicide Crisis Lifeline is a way to call for help and talk to a crisis counselor. And there have been more than 9.6 million calls in the last 2 years nationwide. NABI Keystone, Pennsylvania is a key advocate for the 988 program. Joining us today are Christine Michaels. She is the CEO of NABI Keystone, Pennsylvania, along with Dr. Sharma Dudley, a licensed psychologist and vice president of NABI Keystone, Pennsylvania. Welcome, ladies, to Intersections.
Thank you. Thank you.
Yeah, so Christine, first of all, let's kind of start with you around, it's been this 2-year time period. You know, I mentioned over 9 million contacts. How are different communities managing this influx of calls, and are the systems in place for what people are needing right now?
Well, it's a twofold answer.
Yeah.
The calls are being handled. There were goals set for Pennsylvania to answer 90% of the calls within the state of Pennsylvania. Prior to that, the suicide hotline pinged all over. You know, your call could be answered from New York or somewhere else. We just reached that mile marker. That's a SAMHSA guideline to have 90% of your calls answered in the state. We went from, I believe, like 3 or 4 call centers. We have 13 call centers now in the state. One more coming on in the fall, 14. So that part is, in my mind, strong and going very well. The other part is where are the services there that people need. The people who are calling need not just a phone call sometimes, they need other services. Yeah. And that's where we're kind of like somewhat, you know, we're doing some build up, but there's still like counties in Pennsylvania that don't have a crisis center. Mm-hmm. And the counties that do are trying to enhance their services, strengthen their services. And that part of it all is not going as well as the operation part. In my opinion, it's kind of stalled right now.
Yeah.
And the main reason is funding. And that's the reason for everything, I guess.
Right. And so I know you, like I mentioned, you were at the national convention. Was that also a big topic of conversation there as well?
Yes. In the public policy, the advocacy update, there is a federal act right now, 988 Implementation Act, that if that passes, that'll provide required funding through SAMHSA, through the block grants that states get, and it will designate and mandate a certain percentage of their block grant be spent on crisis services. And there's other funding attached to that act as well.
Yeah.
So
Dr. Dudley, I know that we had talked about how 988 impacts Black and brown communities, and just the knowledge of the availability to call that number. What are we seeing in the communities in terms of people really having knowledge about being able to use this as a resource?
I think that's very important with 988, because in the Black and brown community, usually people have called 911. And oftentimes 911 doesn't always result in a positive outcome. And that was one of the main reasons why 988 became a central topic of conversation, and also a need in the community, because we found that when 911 when was contacted, oftentimes police would come, and oftentimes it was for a mental health condition and a crisis. And sometimes police officers didn't recognize that this was a serious mental health condition that the person was experiencing, and then frequently it might have resulted in a negative outcome. There has been many instances where people in the Black and brown communities have been murdered or killed, So it's been very, it's really been a focus.
Yeah. So I know, part of the state conference, there was a rally at the State House. Was this part of what the rally was about, or what was the rally about?
Yes, the rally was about funding mental health, primarily mental health funding across the board, but the specific items that were we identified was 988 funding. Also to keep the mental health funding that was in the budget, not take it out or reduce it by any amount, and also the workforce shortage, which is impacting everything, including the 988 buildup.
Yeah. And I know that also there was some talk, I guess, around geofencing, because a lot of times people have cell phones and they maybe not have a Pennsylvania area code or an area code connected to where they are. Is that something that is being addressed as well? Yes.
The FEC is right now working on that, and it's geo-routing, and they're working on developing it so that they can, so when a person is making the call, from where they're making the call, the location is where their help will be referred. Not necessarily if you're in California and you have a Pennsylvania area code on your phone. Right now, that call will go to Pennsylvania as opposed to you're in California. The geo-routing will identify that you're in California, and what they have proposed right now is they want the companies, the cell phone companies, to come up with some recommendations so that confidentiality and personal business is kept confidential, but that you do get the help where you are.
And then just like one last question, we have about a minute left. Sharma, you kind of moderated a panel discussion with people in the Black community. Just real quickly, what's one major takeaway from that conversation?
I think one of the main takeaways is education in the Black community and getting people of color in the community to be a part of the conversation, to educate people about mental health conditions when 1 in 5 individuals, and sometimes people say it's 1 in 4, based on the research study that you may be looking at, that many people have mental health conditions. And we want to talk about getting rid of the stigma in Black and brown communities and getting us all there, excuse me, and recognizing that you're not alone. And if you do have a mental health condition, recovery is possible. There's hope out there.
Okay. Well, thank you both so much for being with us and sharing this really important information. We appreciate it.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Well, coming up, the second Juneteenth celebration is happening in Pittsburgh. We talk to the organizer next. You're watching Intersections. Well, Pittsburgh will have an extended Juneteenth celebration this year. The city-sponsored event is planned for June 29th. It's called Juneteenth Fusion Fest, and it will be held inside and outside the Greenwood Plan building on Smithfield Street along Boulevard of the Allies and 3rd Avenue. Joining us to share details are Fantasy Zeller. She is the founder and president of Bounce Marketing and Events, along with Orlana Darkins Drury, event spokesperson for Juneteenth Fusion Fest. Welcome, ladies, to Intersections.
Thank you.
Nice to see you.
Yes, you too. So tell me how you're feeling right now. I mean, you have like, I don't know, roughly a week to go before the event. There's a lot that has been done. I guess a lot still to do. What are you thinking? What are you feeling?
It's a race to the finish line. We're excited. We're tracking really well. Of course, there's still about 10 million loose ends to tie up, but we're making progress.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was going to say tired and exhilarated.
All together,
All
right?
together.
Right. So, we know that there was a lot that kind of led up to this moment, the whole process of the bid and things like that. Tell me a little bit about why you wanted to do this.
Okay. Well, doing events is my business. So when event opportunities come across the board, it's like always exciting to see what it is and try to make it happen. So I wanted to do this one specifically because it seemed like a great opportunity for my agency. It seemed like a great opportunity to bring Pittsburgh together, and I just applied.
Yeah. So what is your vision for the Juneteenth celebration?
From the beginning, my vision was to bring Black Pittsburgh together, to bring the best of into one place to show off what they have going on. So that was my philosophy from how to get it done in such a short timeline. That was really my philosophy even in the bid process, was to bring people that were already doing great things into one place to do them together at Fusion Fest.
Mm-hmm.
And in fact, that's why we called it Fusion Fest.
Yeah. Bringing together fusion.
Yeah, fusing everybody into one place at one time to show off what they do.
Yeah. So tell us a little bit about, some of the activities, some of what people will see. What is the experience that you want people to walk away with?
I want people to walk away with feeling like they had all of their senses were tapped into that day. So from visually to hearing great music to seeing cool things, seeing art, to touching and feeling different things that are happening. That's what I want to have happen. I want you to round a corner and be amazed by what you see.
Yeah. So it's going to run from 1 to 9.
Correct.
So let's see. So I know there's going to be lots of music. So Orlana, tell us a little bit about some of the music that's going to be out there.
Yes, so Fantasy has set up a main stage. So there's going to be performances all day long from the Bill Henry Band, Friends of Funk, Mount Arab Baptist Church Mass Choir. I'm forgetting a lot of them.
Yeah, I think what I can say about the main stage, it's a menagerie of artists, local artists from Pittsburgh. So we have all the different genres in there all day long. You'll be able to see everything from like line dancing to gospel to R&B, hip hop. We have a little bit of it all for you. So no matter what time you come today, you're in for a treat.
Exactly.
Yeah. You said line dancing. Are they going to do To Me a Dance?
You know what? We're keeping that a surprise. And it was really, one of the ways this festival came together was local Pittsburgh got to apply to participate, right? So a couple people did apply to present a line dancing. So they have that up their sleeve, and I don't actually know what they're going to do on that stage.
All right. So I know there's also a fashion show. You have
Yes.
Demetria Bocella. Talk
Super
about that.
excited. Demetria Bocella, the wonderful fashion Africana, tapped into her to present what she does best, which is fashion at a high level. So she has got a show that I don't even know all the details about yet, but I've seen glimpses of it. It's going to be amazing. And so if you're going to come to the festival, make sure you're there around that 7 to 8 o'clock hour when you will get to see what she has planned. You know, there's live music, there's dancers, and a lot of fashion during that segment.
Yeah, and then also a lot of visual art, right?
A lot of visual art.
So tell us, that's going to be inside the?
Yeah, correct.
Okay.
You'll see visual art inside and outside. I want to say we have about 40 local artists that are going to be presenting that day. Everything from in our fine art gallery, where we'll have, you know, like a typical museum type atmosphere where you can walk around and see the art exhibited and hung. And we also have installations going on in the street. So that's more like 3D build outs and different art, live art activations. We have some carving from Ernest Bay that you'll get to see live, a variety of collaborative art projects that different people are presenting. So you'll get to not only see it, but you'll actually get to experience it as well.
Yeah,
And it's going to be family friendly too. There's
I was
going to
gonna
be
say,
a kids zone for them to participate in, so bouncy houses and things like that. So it's going to be something for everyone, as Fantasy said.
Yeah, I was gonna say it's there's gonna be like things for kids to do, and then also like hot dogs and for kids, right?
Yes, 100%.
But vendors as well.
Yep, a bunch of vendors. I want to say, I think we're up to about 65 vendors that'll be on site. So that's everything from people selling, you know, merchandise, food. We have a lot of wonderful food that's being presented that day, food trucks and food vendors, and a lot of people selling, you know, stuff that they do on their own, like makers. We have a maker's mark, so those people are selling stuff that they actually make with their hands, everything from soap to clothes, etc. On the footprint as well, we're doing a pretty large display of local fashion designers who will be there presenting their own stuff that they make with their own hands. So it's really about, like I said before, like tapping into what people are already doing in a large scale and just bringing it to this one event.
All right, well, we're showing everyone the graphic that kind of shows the date and the time. Again, it's Saturday, June 29th from 1 to 9 p.m. The Greenwood Smithfield building there, and there's going to be roads blocked and things like that, but people can walk around and see everything and experience it all. Thank you both so much
Thank
for
you.
being with us.
Thank
We
you.
appreciate it.
Thank you.
All right. And I'll have my last word when we come back. Jubilee. It's a celebration of an anniversary or another occasion. Of course, there are religious references to Jubilee, but after June 19th, 1865, which we also know as Juneteenth, many first called that anniversary of the freedom of enslaved people in Galveston, Texas, 2.5 years after the Emancipation Proclamation, Jubilee. It was a time for people to gather and celebrate their liberty, and it still is 159 years later. Thanks for watching. We'll see you next time on Intersections.